Tanse, good evening. I'm Krisanachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. A proposed class action lawsuit by former Indigenous employees at a federal agency is set for a certification hearing. The suit was filed in 2021 against Indian Oil and Gas Canada. The suit alleges systemic racism, abuse of power, and workplace misconduct at the agency. A certification hearing is scheduled for November 4th in Edmonton to determine if the case can proceed on behalf of all affected Indigenous employees. Indian Oil and Gas is a special operating agency under Indigenous Services Canada that manages oil and gas development on designated First Nations lands. The lawsuit alleges a long-standing pattern of discrimination, retaliation, and unethical practices that have disproportionately affected Indigenous employees. In 2021, following numerous complaints, an independent workplace assessment ordered by Indigenous Services Canada found systemic racism and harassment within the agency. Although, according to lawyers for the plaintiffs, the 78 recommendations have yet to be fully implemented. A First Nation that's been under a boil water advisory for 30 years has had a two-day visit from Ontario's Ombudsman. Ombudsman Paul Dubé was invited by Neskantaga First Nation Chief Gary Cusis to witness firsthand the hardships the community faces, including unsafe infrastructure, inadequate health services, and what has become the longest boil water advisory in Canadian history. Dubé said his visit was an important opportunity to listen to residents, hear their stories, and observe the realities they are living with. The Ombudsman is an impartial officer of the Ontario Legislature who takes complaints about provincial services. Dubé says he wants to help amplify the voices of the community, located 450 kilometers north of Thunder Bay. Earlier this week, the chief took shots at the Ford and Carney governments over plans for the mineral-rich Ring of Fire. In a statement, the chief said, "We are losing our people to epidemics of suicide, addictions, and mental health struggles, all while the governments of Ontario and Canada continue to neglect our community's needs. Instead, they are pouring resources into mining roads that will destroy our homelands. They only want the minerals under our feet and show little care for the people who live here. We do not consent." A First Nation that's been under a boil water advisory for 30 years has had a two-day visit from Ontario. Oh, sorry, I read the wrong one. I apologize. The federal government has previously cut funding for the National Advisory Committee on Residential Schools, Missing Children, and Unmarked Burials earlier this year. This committee supported communities to search unmarked burial sites, former residential school grounds, and despite these cuts, the Cree community of Chisasibi is continuing their search at two former residential schools in Quebec. This includes the Fort George Roman Catholic Residential School and the St. Philip's School at Fort George. Archaeologist Adrian Burke, who is leading the search, says the excavation is not expensive as the team already has ground-penetrating radar equipment, and most of the costs include traveling to and from the community. Burke says the team was able to save some money from funding the feds have previously provided to be able to continue to carry out the search in Chisasibi.
One of the sort of things that we're trying to do across Canada with our working group is we want to train Indigenous communities to do this work, because we think that ultimately the Indigenous communities should be in control of this, including, the GPR or the other, of course, the archival research, for example. So what we did this year is we trained several Cree folks from Chisasibi to do the GPR. If we do archaeological excavation, I don't mean with heavy equipment, but archaeological excavation, that too requires some training. But we are training Indigenous people across Canada in archaeology as well.
A man in the Northwest Territories has been found deceased after he was reported missing nearly 2 weeks ago. On September 3rd, Fort Resolution RCMP were told that the 35-year-old did not come home to the community from a boating trip earlier that day. RCMP were notified on September 14th that human remains were found on Moose Deer Island, less than 10 kilometers from Fort Resolution. Community members identified the remains as the missing man. His name has not been released. The Northwest Territories Coroner Service is now investigating. Our next guest is an award-winning journalist from Treaty 6 territory in Alberta. Brandy Morin just got back from speaking with land defenders on the south side of Vancouver Island. A BC Supreme Court has just ordered them to stop blocking the road leading into an old-growth forest in the Walburn Valley. The blockade has been in place since late August to stop logging companies from harvesting old-growth trees in the area. The land defenders are now preparing for the RCMP to move in to start making arrests. Brandy Morin joins us now from Spruce Grove, Alberta. Brandy Morin, thank you so much for speaking with us. The BC Supreme Court has ordered a group of land defenders to stop blocking the road leading into an old-growth forest in the Walburn Valley in South Vancouver Island. You were there and witnessed interactions between land defenders and security guards. What did you see?
Yes, Tanse, Christine, thank you for having me. So yes, I spent about 5 days on the ground in the camp that is called Cougar Camp Blockade with these land defenders. Now they've built a fortress out there in an effort to keep industry out, to protect themselves from impending arrest regarding this injunction that was issued against them. So far, no RCMP have begun to enforce the injunction. Now, security for the company has been on location a few times, as well as process servers hired by the company to attempt to serve the injunction to these land defenders. And it's been very interesting to see, because they have this, 10-foot gate built out of wood there, and nobody can get in and out unless they decide who gets in and out. And so you have these process servers attempting to serve these injunction, and they're just being thrown all over in front of this structure, and they are preparing to put themselves on the line to be arrested for this cause that they are very, very passionate about, which is to protect the old growth forest from being cut.
Again, you talked about it a little bit there, Brandy, but can you explain why the land defenders are there, and where does the local First Nation leadership stand on this issue?
Yeah, so there is an area, it's called, it's along a logging road 44 that is due to be cut down. It contains old growth trees such as cedar and hemlock trees, hundreds of year old trees. Now they're there because these trees play an integral role in the forest ecosystem, and they think that too much of the forests on Vancouver Island have already been cut down. And the local leadership, so it's the territory of the Pachidat First Nation, and the Pachidat Nation, as their chief counselor told me, is a logging nation. That is their main industry, their main source of income, and they are for logging. And she told me that they have asked the group to leave, that they are supporting the mining activities, that they are concerned, I guess, for these land defenders' safety out there in the wilderness, concerned that they might be leaving garbage there. On the other hand, there is an elder who's 85 years old. His name is Bill Jones, and he's from the Pachidat Nation, and he has been leading this fight to save the forest. He was at the helm of the Fairy Creek protests, and again, he's leading them. He's from Pachidat, and he is actually suing his own nation. He filed a lawsuit against them officially in the BC Supreme Court, and is citing that his rights have been violated because he was not consulted or did not give consent to the giving over of the rights to access the resources, which are the forests.
Really briefly, Brandy, from your perspective, what has been done to the forest with this clear cutting, and how does it impact the wildlife there?
Yeah, so the province of BC says about 10% of the old growth forest is left on the island, whereas the people out there working to protect it, they dispute that. They say around 3% is left. When you look at these maps, these satellite imaging maps that have been made, it's very profound to see, over the last 20 years or so, what remains of old growth forest. It's very, very little when you see it that way. And from what I understand is when these these ecosystems are gone because trees that are hundreds of years old play this vital role in the whole community of the forest and how it functions. And when it's gone, it not only causes damages to the forest, there's all sorts of issues. There's flooding, there's erosion, all sorts of different impacts of climate change. But when it goes, it takes hundreds and hundreds of years for the forest to recover, for it to become the same. And so the people that go out there and enjoy these spaces, they want to preserve them, they enjoy them. It's a place for them to go, and that's what they're out there to do.
Brandy Morin, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, thank you so much.
And we have more news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The 2025-2026 Indigenous Theatre Series got underway this month at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa. It opened with a production that contrasts the peaceful Indigenous ecosystem of an Amazonian rainforest with the devastating effects of mining development. APTN's Fraser Needham recently caught up with the two artists who put it all together.
The musical sounds of water running through copper tubing, droplets of rain falling gently into copper bowls, and birds singing, pierced by the loud noise of machinery approaching from the outside. It's all part of an interactive play by Anishinaabe Canadian artist Emily Monet and Inga Nation Colombian artist Wera Nina, called Nigamon Tune, which in both Anishinaabe Mawan and Inga means song.
And the idea is to generate a different sense of listening, so an acute sense of listening to these sounds that we don't really pay attention to, the songs of the rocks, of the trees, of the water. And perhaps it's in that state of acute listening that we can hear the words of activists and land defenders and the people that we have interviewed.
The production is set in the Colombian Amazon rainforest and plays upon the irony of the central role copper plays within Indigenous communities that is being disrupted by Canadian mining companies that want to extract it for profit. With Monet translating, Nina says Indigenous land defenders in Colombia face considerable risk if they speak out politically against mining development.
People are really a threat over there, so they make people disappear when they speak up for against extractivism, but it's affecting not only the people, so people get displaced as well, but it's also affecting all the animals, the birds, the fish, and the water.
And it is for this reason, Monet says, Indigenous people in the north must stand united with their brothers and sisters to the south.
Indigenous land defenders are being persecuted everywhere, but in Colombia, you speak against the government or for the protection of your territory, and you get death threats or you get killed. There's a lot of Indigenous leaders that are being killed at the moment. So this piece was a way to think of solidarity, or to think of friendship in terms of solidarity.
The NAC Indigenous Theatre Series runs until June 2026, with a number of other workshops and performances. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
IKEA Winnipeg has been working with 4-Star Woman, also known as Leslie Beardy, to work towards their reconciliation journey. By working with Indigenous communities, learning Indigenous history and teachings, and attending ceremonies, and now having a permanent exhibition and Indigenous family room. IKEA Winnipeg says it's setting an example for other large businesses to follow suit. Julia Ross reports.
As IKEA Winnipeg customers venture through the display room floor, they're met with an exhibition and family room influenced by Indigenous culture.
Does it feel like you're in IKEA right now?
No. IKEA Winnipeg's Indigenous advisor, Leslie Beardy, is the curator of the Come Home Pekue Biguin exhibit in IKEA Winnipeg.
What we think and what we do, what we put into our homes, and it's important to know the history. So there's archival images on the walls that show we've always been here.
The exhibition includes an east-facing teepee with artwork from Michaela Gilbert, as well as photos, a medicines display, and a star blanket made by Corey Sanderson. The teepee has Indigenous values burnt into each pole. Beardy has found tobacco ties and collects them to bring to the land.
We see lots of traffic into this room. We see lots of people coming around the corner and saying, oh, wow, I didn't know IKEA would have something like this. And the other really exciting thing we've seen is a lot of parents in here with their children reading the different communications and teaching, which is really great, and we're super proud of that.
Around the corner, a wall with information about missing and murdered women, girls, and Two-Spirit people is displayed along with a ribbon skirt by Drayden Flett Roulette. Beardy says the top is interchangeable, currently dressed in an Every Child Matters shirt for National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
When I seen this skirt, I broke down in tears, because I know how much work goes into creating art, and like stuff like this, to have my vision to be, seen in real life. I broke down in tears, and how beautiful it is.
Andrea Drylick is the Communications and Interior Design Manager for IKEA Winnipeg. She helped design the family room. She says IKEA staff visited different Indigenous families' homes, helping them to come up with solutions.
We come to a customer's home and we talk about the activities they do in their home, what kind of needs they have that they aren't being met with their current home furnishing solutions, and what their dreams are and their frustrations. And then we bring that back and we create solutions with our product that we know will help people's lives at home become easier.
A family from Hollow Water First Nation became the chosen family to design the solutions around. Drylick says that the exhibit is treated well at IKEA Winnipeg.
Both of these spaces we're really excited to see are treated with the most respect out of any display in the store.
Back at the teepee, Beardy says it is beautiful to take up this much space and to have people walk by her work. With her help, staff have participated in raising a teepee, a pipe ceremony, and have dedicated time to learn about residential schools, Indigenous history, and culture.
When I was asked to come on board as the advisor and the curator, we always said it was just between us and them, and it's not, a spectacle or, you know what I mean? We're not doing it for that. It's because they want to learn, and I'm the teacher. in a good way, of course.
The exhibition and family room are permanent installations at the Winnipeg IKEA. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Indigiqueer storytelling is alive and well in Vancouver. That story when we come back. Wilalin for staying with us. Time now for our photo of the day. Our very own Angel Moore snapped this photo of 10-year-old Frank Perro of Wagogama First Nation. Frank might be an aspiring photojournalist or future videographer. We also love your beautiful regalia, Frank. Thank you for that photo, Angel. And for the chance to be our next photo of the day, send us your photos to share at aptn.ca. Time now to take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Fredericton 25 and sunny, Halifax 18. The Grand River 8, Cartwright 14 and rain. Quebec City 23 and sunny, Montreal 26. Sarnia 24, Sault Ste. Marie 18 and partly cloudy. Timmins 13, Thunder Bay 16 and sunny. Churchill 12 and partly cloudy, Thompson 18. Brandon 13, Princess Harbour 14. North Battleford 20 and sunny, Yorkton partly cloudy and 19. Buffalo Narrows sunny there at 21, Orange 16. Sunny in Fort McMurray at 23, Peace River 20. Red Deer 24, Edmonton 22. Bella Coola 13, Quesnel 17 and sunny. Prince Rupert 13, Fort Nelson 19 and sunny. Whitehorse 11, rain in Mayo at 12. Showers in Wrigley at 19, Trout Lake 13 and sunny. Sax Harbor 6, Pawlatuck 10. Baker Lake 7, Chesterfield 9. And Aglulik 0, Arctic Bay -6. The 37th annual Vancouver Queer Film Festival is shining a light on Indigiqueer storytelling. Ryan Cunningham has more from Vancouver.
This year's Vancouver Queer Film Festival has just kicked off and is showcasing 99 films over 10 days at venues across the city. This year's programming includes the feature film Star Walker. It's about a young Indigiqueer two-spirit drag queen learning the ropes of the drag community and finding their place in their community. The film stars Dylan Miigwech Chilblow, originally from Garden River First Nation in Ontario.
Well, I actually was offered to originate the character in the very first reading, very first workshop, so that was really special. I think Star is really sweet, really gentle, and is affected by the traumas that they experienced, but has really worked hard not to let that define them. They still have dreams, they still have wants, they still long for community, long for a connection.
For the first time, the festival has appointed an Indigiqueer artistic director, Mary Galloway, a trailblazing filmmaker and actor herself.
Last year I came here and I was a panelist. I was speaking on one of the panels at the festival last year. And then when I was heading home, I saw the call for an artistic director and I was like, oh, I'm just curious, what would that entail? And I read the job description. Wow, that's all things that I am passionate about, advocating and being a voice for the queer filmmakers from around the world and getting to showcase queer films.
Galloway is excited to showcase more Indigenous filmmakers and artists this year, including her short film called Embers of Queer Joy.
We've got Indigenous performers, and we've got Charlene Johnny designed the artwork for the festival, which is just incredible. The Modi Award, of course, and then all of the wonderful Indigiqueer two-spirit films and filmmakers that are going to be in attendance. So I really want to grow that more every year.
The VQFF provides a platform for screenings, panels, and parties throughout September 21st. Galloway's words capture the festival's electric momentum.
I feel like the festival is really shaping out to be exactly what I envisioned, so I'm so excited for it to kick off.
For Indigenous and queer communities, this edition isn't just a festival, it's a reclamation, one reel at a time. Ryan Cunningham, APTN National News, Vancouver.
And that's all the time we have for your Wednesday evening newscast. We're back tomorrow for your daytime newscast. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next day.